What is good, guys? It's Ray J back with another video, and in this one I want to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers, and break down what's happening with the overall market thus far, why Tesla ended up cutting its prices all over the world for the FSD, not to mention its overall models, and how things are moving in my personal opinion for the markets. But before I break the devil's information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am personally not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit $500, you're guaranteed 20 free stocks. Deposit $25,000 or more, you're guaranteed 75 of them. And the offer ends very soon in just about 9 days. Anyways, for Tesla, I just want to mention that right now Tesla's on a bit of a downtrend. We got this big rejection off this 160 resistance, and since then Tesla's been continuing to fall for the last week, almost every single day of just downside after downside after downside. Now, we do have some negative news that came out for Tesla about more price cuts, which could cause another move in Tesla to possibly dip a bit more, but I still think that the overall market could still see a bounce if we hold particular supports and because of other pieces of news. So I'm going to break down how this could affect Tesla, why I think Tesla could dip a bit more before getting a bit of a bounce, why it's still very possible, some very important levels to watch for in the process of that happening, and how things can move in my personal opinion. But let's first talk about data and things around the world before I break down the charts. Right now, with the whole situation involving Iran and Israel, I just want to make it very clear that there's no guarantee that the war is over. There's no guarantee about anything just yet. But we do have some positive news about this in a way, because the supreme leader of Iran has demonstrated power against Iran, if you want to put it that way. That's what he claimed. And you could agree with that. You could say something different. It's all up to you guys. I'm not going to really make an opinion on that. But I just want to make it very clear that what I do like about his speech is the fact that he didn't really say anything too crazy about Iran attacking Israel back after their counterattack, which came after Iran's retaliatory attack. So it's been just them going back and forth and back and forth. But what's good about this is the fact that he's not fixated on another big attack back. This kind of implies that although it is possible for the war to continue, okay, it doesn't like put us in the clear right now. What is good about it is the fact that the situation is not really becoming more tense. It actually eased up just a little bit over the weekend, and that could be positive for the markets. And I find that's to be very, very important. Now, I don't want to necessarily downplay any risks of wider conflicts in any way, shape, or form. I just want to make it very clear that the situation is still tense in some ways, but it's less tense than before. And for the time being, Iran is not really talking about attacking Israel back. They claim that they already showed their power. So with that happening, okay, with that them making that claim, that is a little bit positive for the time being, because once again, we there could be a stall in the attacks for some time. We could see something kind of like halt for some time, and with that happening, that could be a bit more positive, at least for this current sentiment of the market and the way the market kind of sees the situation. So I'll be watching to see if anything changes. Once again, this all could change if something happens. We haven't really seen any more, escalation in the conflict. So let's just hope it maintains the way things are. Let's hope for peace, and we'll just wait and see how things go. For tomorrow, it's going to be Monday, April 22nd. Please remember that at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the Chicago Fed National Activity Index coming out. Might cause a small move in the markets, nothing too crazy in my opinion. But at 11:30 a.m., we have the 3-month and 6-month bill auctions coming out that could affect the market to some extent. So we'll see if there's some volatility at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And besides that, there's not really anything else for data. However, for earnings, we have some important things for Tesla and the market. Firstly, on Monday morning before the market opens, we have Verizon announcing its earnings, and everything else is going to be very, very minor from the rest of the day for Monday. However, for Tuesday, we have GM, UPS, GE, and a few others. Then we also have Tesla announcing earnings after the market closes. I went over some projections on Tesla and what many analysts are thinking about their EPS and such over the weekend. This is going to be very important. It's going to cause a massive move in Tesla. So whatever happens to Tesla for Monday slash Tuesday, at least when the market's open, it doesn't matter that much. It doesn't matter what Tesla does as much. What matters more is going to be the reaction after the market closes on Tuesday and what we see on Wednesday, because Tesla is going to make a massive move after earnings comes out. That's going to be key for the share price. For Wednesday, please remember we have Boeing announcing its earnings and AT&T before the market opens. Then after the market closes, we have Meta, IBM, and Ford. Meta is going to be the most important one for Wednesday. And then for Thursday, we have Microsoft, Alphabet, Intel, Snap, and Roku. I would say these top two are the most important ones. And then Friday is going to be very minor for just like ExxonMobil and the others. So we have a lot of these magnificent seven stocks announcing their earnings. It's going to be very important to listen and see what they end up saying. And we're going to be watching for some big moves in the markets, in my personal opinion. So watch and see how things go, especially for Tesla. It's going to be very exciting. Right now, the market is quite fearful with all the things going on around the world, with all the risks of crude going up, inflation increasing, with all the talk from the Fed about potentially keeping rates higher for longer. This has been quite negative for the markets, especially the wars that have been going on. With bond prices starting to kind of shift, with bonds shifting, and the yields kind of going up is what I'm trying to say. With that shift, it's kind of inciting a lot more fear in the markets. We'll see if there's any changes for the time being, because if this whole situation involving Israel kind of like eases for a bit, this could cause the bonds market to shift, which could be a little bit more positive for the stock market. So we'll see if this fear kind of subsides or not. Market momentum is still neutral. We're approaching this key support on the S&P 500. I also wanted to call out two more things. The puts and call options positioning is at 1. So usually when we're at this area, as we get higher and higher, we do tend to see a little shift. We'll see if this gets a little rejection, because now everyone's buying puts. This is the 5-day average put/call ratio. Everyone's betting the market's going to sink. Everyone's getting puts. Could the market makers cause a little counter trend move to attack that, to kind of counter this? It's a strong possibility, but we'll have to wait and see just to be safe on the charts. Simultaneously, guys, don't forget about market volatility. The VIX is trying to break to the upside for now, but we're going to be watching to see this resistance as we approach 20. The 20 zone tends to be tight, so we'll see how the VIX reacts, and we'll see how the market reacts as well. So with that being said, let's talk about Tesla. Why on earth is there still more bad news coming out for Tesla? Unfortunately, the first thing is Tesla's lowering the FSD to about $8,000, down from $12,000. That's going to be very, very important. They lowered this in Canada and the USA, and they're doing this as a result of an additional drop from their enhanced autopilot, which is the first option that actually caused this drop. So first they dropped that, the enhanced autopilot. They cut the FSD subscription service in half, and now they cut the price of the overall FSD. So it's very, very crazy how this is happening. They're doing this because of what's happening with their demand, trying to incentivize more users to, take on their subscriptions and such. So Tesla is doing this amidst what's going on around the world. But remember, this is not just affecting Canada and the USA. There's also other things going on. Tesla's cut prices nearly $2,000 in China, in line with the US cuts. So they're also cutting the prices of their EVs in China and the USA. This is making all the headlines. We're seeing this everywhere right now. They've cut prices on the Model Y, the Model S, and the Model X's after a very, very difficult week. And this is after the recall of their Cybertrucks. Crazy, crazy stuff right here. So we have them right here. Tesla knocked $2,000 off the price of 3 of its 5 models in the USA last Friday. Another signal of the challenges facing the EV company. The company also cut the price of the Model Y, a small SUV, which they typically use, the Model 3 sedan, not to mention the X. That's very, very important. The cuts reduced the starting price for the Model Y to about $42,990 to about $72,000, which is a little bit lower than before. And also for the Model X is about $78,000 now. So that's actually a very, very big drop. This caused Tesla to dip a little bit alongside other pieces of news. There's also news right over here where we're seeing this kind of increasing to other countries. So you can see they cut prices by $2,000 or so for their Chinese EVs, and also for the American EVs, so their sales here in the USA, and then simultaneously for some European countries such as Germany. That's some big news. So in some parts of Europe, they're cutting the prices of their cars. In China and the USA as well, they also cut their FSD. All these different things are going on. Right here in Germany, they trimmed the price of their Model 3 RWD. Now it's going to cost about 43,000 USD. It's about 41,000 euros. And that's from when it used to be about 43,000 euros. So a bit of a drop in the price over there. And then we also saw them potentially talking about more price cuts in other parts of Europe, the Middle East, and also even parts of Africa. So very, very interesting stuff right over here. We'll see how things go moving forward, but that's something worth noting for Tesla. As far as Tesla goes, let me just call out the fact that right over here, we saw Wedbush kind of reiterate that Tesla will outperform the markets. Deutsche Bank downgraded Tesla from a buy to a hold. So those are kind of like the same, nothing too crazy except for Deutsche Bank. That was kind of old news though. The price-price ratio is dipping as Tesla is showing relative weakness compared to the markets. Mondays do historically tend to be green 53% of the time, and Tuesdays are green about 51% of the time. We also tend to see more volatility at 10 a.m., 11 o'clock a.m., then around 2 p.m. as well for more and more interesting price action. But that's all I'm seeing so far after all of these cuts. That's something very, very important. Tesla also has about 87 million in volume, a little bit less than what we get on average. There's a big shift right now. But what I do find interesting is the fact that I did mention to everyone that Tesla had that gap all the way down in that 140 area, that 140, mid 140 area. And Tesla did technically come down to fill that gap. We did end up seeing the move right there as Tesla reached this 146 area. So from what I see, I want to make it very clear that for the overall markets, there is still a downtrend right now. Okay. The market has not officially bounced yet. So we have to watch for confirmation for that to happen. And let me just explain something very simple to people who are new to trading. So right now, the market's on a downtrend, right? How do I know that? Just look at the structure right over here. Let me just draw this out for you. If you look at Tesla, right, we were down here. Oh, we were up here. Let's just start up here. We had this high right here, right? We came down. We made a new low relative to this low, made a lower high, made this lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. We're still downtrending, right? You guys see that? We're still downtrending. If you want to turn bullish, you need to see Tesla break out like this, go up here, come down, make a lower high. I'm sorry, make a higher low compared to before. Excuse me, guys. Then break this high. Higher highs and higher lows will be a change in structure. That's how you turn bullish. So far, the chart doesn't have that, so we're not officially bullish on Tesla for a bounce. I know a lot of people want there to be a bounce. We don't have confirmation yet. Now, with all this bad news coming out with the price cuts and such, I wouldn't be surprised if Tesla actually dips a little bit more. We could get very close to about 144. But what I like about the chart is the fact that we're kind of contracting, we're losing some bearish momentum. And then simultaneously, you could see that Tesla's trying to base at 146. So maybe we kind of like touch some of these supports in the 144 area and we kind of chop a little bit. I think Tesla might actually see somewhat of a drop during the pre-market, touch some supports in the mid to low 140s, and then later on, it still could bounce with the market if we end up holding some key support and if the market helps us stay and get dragged back up. So I think that there's a very good chance Tesla will bounce later, as Tesla loves to kind of like bounce approaching its earnings, but we could dip first. I want to make that very, very clear. Tesla could dip, retest 146. If we lose this, watch 144, then 142. If that fails us, we could see a bigger drop. If we bounce off 146, look at resistance basically very close to 150. That's going to be the key resistance zone in 148. If we break 150, look for 151.75, followed by 155. In my opinion, here's how I think it might go for Tesla. I wouldn't be surprised if we actually dip a little bit during the pre-market. We might come down as Tesla likes to do. We might grab liquidity down here in the 144 area, kind of consolidate a bit. And then even though Tesla may dip a little bit more, it could try to bounce and rebound and try to push back up towards 148. And if we break that, we could be looking for a move back up to 150. I think Tesla may dip a bit more, but then it might get a bounce later because of the overall market. I'm going to break down exactly why that is. Now, one of the reasons why I say that is because when you look at SPY, like Tesla, we have a downtrend, okay? Look at SPY. We had this high right here. We made a lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high. It's still downtrending. For SPY to bounce, we need to hold 493. We need to have to hold above 493. If we hold that, it's going to likely try to make its way back up towards 497, then 500. If we lose this support right here, if we lose 493, we're going to be dipping all the way down to 491, if not 490. There's going to be a bigger drop coming. My gut is telling me that we've dropped so hard and for too long, and considering that the situation involving Israel is kind of easing a bit, I wouldn't be surprised if we actually try to grab liquidity one more time, see a little dip during the pre-market, and then we try to get a bounce. I think we might be trying to push back up towards 500 by Tuesday, at least to 500 plus. So I think the most likely possibility is just kind of dipping a little bit here, grabbing liquidity tomorrow, and then trying to push back up, retesting 497, maybe breaking it. If we break it, look for 500 plus. We may dip a little bit, then try to rebound it, and 500 could be coming. I think that SPY will most likely do that. That's what I favor on SPY, and I think that Tesla could do something similar, except Tesla might be a little bit weaker because of the price cuts and some bad news. So we could dip a little bit more on Tesla, then rebound a bit and try to push back up towards 150. I think that everyone is kind of shorting, expecting the market to dip more, but that's why the market makers may try to shift things and try to catch a lot of investors by surprise. Now, for the QQQ, we're bearish right now. There's a downtrend. There's no confirmation of a bounce. We also love to get rejected off our 20 EMA, the green line you guys see. We love to reject off of that. If we break past 418, it's going to start pushing to the 420s. That's going to be our key resistance. My gut tells me that the QQQ, just like Tesla in the market, could actually dip a little bit more. We could retest 413, maybe go a little lower. 410 is still a possibility. It's looking a little unlikely, but it's still possible because of how Nvda is looking. So there could be a little dip and then look for a bounce back up to 418 and 420. I find that to be a big possibility. QQQ could retest this support and try to make its way back up. Part of why I say that is because we're kind of turning on the hourly time frame. We are due for a little bounce after seeing so much selling, and with the whole situation Israel kind of easing a bit, that does open the doors a bit more. Now, what could drag this down lower is Nvidia. We got a big drop on Nvidia. Nvidia might drop a little bit more and retest the 750 zone, but watch and see if we hold this support. Because if we bounce off this, Nvidia could be pushing back up to 780, then eventually 800. If we fail at 750, there's going to be a risk of more downside. My gut's telling me that we could see a move where it kind of like dips a bit, then tries to rebound and gets back above 750. Then we start to push back up from there. That's a strong possibility, so we'll have to see how it goes. We also have Apple. Apple's kind of dipping a bit, but it's trying to base here. Historically, Apple likes to bounce off 165. The majority of the time, that's what it does. It could dip a bit more towards 160. I'm sorry, not 160, 164. It could actually retest 164 around here and then try to rebound to our 20 EMA at 165. I find that's to also be a very, very strong possibility. So that being said, guys, I went over the main charts out there. Let me just go over a few more, try to be kind of quick with the ending part of this video. For the others out there like Palantir, we're still bearish, but we're approaching support at 20. We'll have to see how it reacts to this 20 and then 19.5 zone. We could dip a bit more than try to bounce, so watch and see how it goes. For Super Micro, we're actually on a big rejection, kind of dipping a little bit. We're approaching the 700 support. We'll have to, excuse me, we'll have to see how it reacts to this. If we get a bounce off 700, look for a push for 750. If we fail at 700, we're going to be dipping more. So we'll just have to see how things end up going. For Rivian, we're on a bit of a downtrend. You guys can see Rivian's been continuing to fall. It could actually dip a little bit more, retest 8.5. If we hold that, look for a bounce back up to 8.88, then eventually $9.9. But I think it might dip a little bit more before we get that bounce. Look for a test of 8.5 very soon. Also, Tesla's earnings is going to have a big effect on this, so get ready. But so far, we're very indecisive right now. I do like the fact that it's trying to hold 7. So I wouldn't be surprised if we actually try to push back up to 7.22 and maybe 7.32 if that breaks. So look for a little dip and then a bounce is a strong possibility. For the Russell 2000, this is looking kind of decent right now. It's trying to base at 192. Well, if we fail, look for 190 as support. If we hold it, look for 195. The chart looks to me like it's trying to base, it's trying to bounce. So we could be seeing 195 by tomorrow or Tuesday. I do kind of favor that a bit more looking at the current trend. For AMD, this looks a little bearish. It's still dropping really, really hard, but we're approaching some key support over here at this 144 area. So I wouldn't be surprised if it dips a little bit more towards 144. If it loses that, it could get closer to like 140 before getting the bounce, but I favor that very soon. It's going to try to rebound as we're approaching the support at 144. So watch and see if we end up hitting that, and then we get that bounce. For ARM, I see two possibilities. Either it bounces here and pushes back up towards 100, or we dip all the way down to the imbalance, not the imbalance, but the previous resistance becoming support at 80, and then we bounce. So either it dips down to 80 and then bounces, or it bounces here. We're currently at like 87. We'll see. I'll just have to wait and see how we open. Could hit 80, then bounce back up to at least 96 to 100, or it could just kind of rebound from here. So we'll just have to wait and see. For Coinbase, the 4 hour is looking a little bit weaker right now. We got this nice rejection off this resistance. We have a little downtrend as well on coin. You guys can see it quite clearly, but we have this support at this like 207 area. So I wouldn't be surprised if we end up approaching 207 again, right? We might touch that again. Then we could see a bit of a rebound. We could see a little rebound back up to 220. I think coin might try to touch 207 and bounce to 220. It's a strong possibility. For Amazon, we're sinking. We're looking pretty weak right now. We also have this gap to fill all the way down towards 170. So I think that either it dips all the way down to like 172 and then it bounces, or it could go all the way down to 170 and then bounce. It's got to be one of those two. But I do believe it's going to bounce soon. It might dip a little bit more before we get that bounce. It's still looking kind of bearish, so it might dip a little bit more before that bounce comes, but watch for that very carefully on Amazon. Meta is also looking kind of weak, but we're approaching support right here. We're at support at about, we hit the support at 476-ish, around that area. We also have this gap over here to fill. So maybe it gets closer to 475 and then bounces up to 485. Look and see for a bounce. I do think it might dip first before we get that bounce, so we'll watch for that. Microsoft is also looking kind of bearish right here. A little bit weaker, but we're at support at 397, so we'll have to see if this holds. If we lose this, look for 395 and then a bounce. If it holds this, it could rebound to 400 plus. Watch 397 as key support on Microsoft. We'll see how it goes. Google's looking a bit more bearish right now. You guys can see this trend right here. Uh, we could be approaching the support over here at this imbalance at 153.65 and then try to bounce. That's a real possibility. This is where our support happens to be. So look for a little bit more of a dip towards 154 to 153.5 and then a bounce after that. For the VIX, we got this nice little push up. We have a bearish divergence developing on it. The VIX looks like it could dip a little bit. So maybe it pops a bit then as the market drops a little bit more, and then this starts falling. So it might start to fall towards 18.1. If we lose that, look for 17. My gut tells me it may pop and drop, and that could contribute to more downside. So watch for that very carefully. So with that dropping, if it loses the EMA, that means the market could bounce a bit. The 10-year treasury yield, the bonds out there, right? When you look at the treasury yield, there's a possibility that this could reject and approach our 20 EMA. This is going to be 4.55. If it loses this, it has this gap to fill. If this starts dipping, this could actually help the market bounce a little bit. So watch and see if that ends up being the case. The dollar is also in a very similar position. We have sort of like a head and shoulders, maybe like a cup and handle, inverse cup and handle like structure, whatever you want to call this, it doesn't matter. It's kind of turning. If it loses 106, it's going to be dipping all the way down to 105.75. This could help the market bounce. So I'm seeing signals out there that suggest the market might bounce soon, but we need confirmation on the charts just to be safe. And that could help Tesla bounce too. But first, the market and Tesla could see a little bit more downside before the bounce comes, maybe during the pre-market. So we'll be watching for that. But we'll have to wait and see how things go. Tesla might dip a bit more because of all this negative news about the price cuts and then try to bounce back up to 150 later on. That's what I think is very probable, and we'll see how things go. But always remember, guys, this move does not matter too much because the real move is going to happen after Tesla's earnings. So we'll have to see how things go after the market closes on Tuesday. Until then, I'll see you guys tomorrow before the market opens. Have a great rest of your Sunday, and I'll see you guys very soon in the next one. Thank you for listening, and peace out.